What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Dewitt. I'm a real estate agent here in the Central Maryland area, and I'm actually looking to become more than just a real estate agent. I'm looking to become a true property wealth advisor. First off, if you're new here, welcome. Look, I am on a mission to make this the #1 Maryland YouTube channel in the world, and I need your help to do it. You can start off by liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell. New videos coming out every single week. Today, we're going to be talking about something a little bit different, right? We're going to be talking about retirement, right? It's something we all look forward to. It's something we all want to do earlier than is recommended. And it's just something we have to plan for, right? So we're going to talk about the top 3 places in Maryland that you should consider for retirement. Today, we're going to be talking about the trade-offs, what you need to consider personally to decide if it's a good fit for you. And all of this is going to be backed by true data and not just pretty pictures. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Before we dive into the top 3 places to consider for retirement in Maryland, first we got to decide what makes a great place to retire. And I believe there's 4 things. Well, actually, data believes there's 4 things. First is access to quality health care. As we get older, our health starts to decline. It's just natural. Even if you're still very healthy, things become a bit harder, right? You don't move like you used to. And, you want affordable and great access to healthcare. And so that's something you really need to consider when you're deciding where you want to retire. Of course, we all want to retire in beach towns and on tropical islands, but if they don't have good healthcare, you're not doing yourself any favors in the long run. Secondly, is affordability and tax friendliness for retirees. You want a place that has a decent cost of living. Remember, you're not working. You're probably not getting the same income that you were getting when you were working. And so you have to consider, will I have enough money to sustain me through the rest of my life through retirement? The last thing you want to do is come out of retirement and have to go back to working. Okay, nobody wants to do that. So you want to consider the cost of living, the cost of housing, state and local taxes, especially for things like Social Security benefits. 3, lifestyle and amenity mix, right? You want to have a great life. You want to enjoy retirement. We all love when we hear retirees talk about they went here and did this and they're doing this tomorrow and this next week, and they have this long schedule of these fun events they're doing, and we all have to go to work. We love to hear that because now we can have a dream for retirement. So you want good amenities, you want good infrastructure, you want walkability, you want good culture, nature, you want fun things to do, and you want to stay active right within your local area. Fourth is safety and stability. Look, as we get older, right, we become a little less apt to defend ourselves, right? Now, when we're younger, we're ready to fight anybody. We can take on the world. When you're older, you want safety and stability. You don't want to go to sleep at night wondering, is somebody going to break in or is somebody going to steal your car or anything like that. And so safety and stability is very important to consider when you're thinking of a place to retire. Real quick, and I promise we'll get into the actual meat and potatoes of the video, I want to highlight some of the reasons that Maryland is actually a great place to retire. First off, there are no taxes for Social Security benefits. That's right, you keep 100% of your Social Security benefits. So it's not taxed income, which makes it really affordable for people to retire in Maryland. It makes it a great place to consider for your retirement. Also, safety and stability. Maryland is generally safe. Now, of course, like I always say, some areas are better than others, and that's everywhere you go. However, there are plenty of safe and affordable areas in Maryland to consider when retiring. And of course, we're going to get into all the fun and the local amenities that make Maryland great. So, without further ado, let's get into it. #1 on the list is Easton, Maryland, over on the Eastern Shore. If you want the classic retirement trifecta, right, that includes water access, small town charm, and still great amenities, then Easton delivers 100% of the time. Easton, Maryland is going to be a place you need to consider when you're thinking of retiring. Now, here is why Easton stands out. First off, it offers that ideal small town charm without being too remote and rural, right? It's not so far out of the way that you have to drive 40 minutes into your nearest town to find a Walmart. However, it's not so crowded and overpopulated where you feel like you have no space, you feel like you have no peace, and there's just always something going on, right? Very few people want to retire in a place that's always moving. Now, if you are one of those people, maybe Easton isn't for you. But if you want some peace, some quiet, but still have some accessibility and walkability, Easton is a place you need to consider. According to World Atlas, Easton offers a harmonious blend of beauty, community, convenience, making it one of the most ideal locations for retirement. Next up with Easton, there are a lot of 55 plus communities, right? Most people, when you retire, you don't want to be surrounded by a bunch of 20-year-olds in college partying all the time. You want to be surrounded by peers, right? Active adults, retirees, even that relate to you, that you can talk with and spend your time with, right? Easton has a ton of those with great walkability to local shops. Again, that small downtown feel, and a lot of these places have a resale value of over $500,000. So you're still getting great equity. You're still getting a pretty affordable home, and you don't have to sacrifice your quality of life to get affordability, right? Easton really is that just perfect middle ground when we're talking about retirement. Lastly, on the tax front, so we already went over that Maryland does not tax Social Security benefits. However, Easton also doesn't tax pension. That's right. Places There are several places in Maryland like this, but Easton, Maryland has a pension exclusion, which means they don't tax your retirement pension from your job. That means you keep 100% of Social Security and retirement pension. Come on, family. This is too good to be true. Easton, Maryland really is a place that you need on your list of places to retire. So things you might want to double check and consider. Like to call these some of the trade-offs, right? One, housing in Easton is not cheap, right? For example, the median house price is about $450,000. Now, that is not a low number. However, it's not too astronomical that a lot of retirees can't find it and live pretty well with it. And that is according to greatretirementspots.com, right? Where they said Easton is not on the bottom of the list, but it's not at the top of the list in terms of affordability. It's kind of right in that middle ground. Secondly, the weather. Being on the Eastern Shore, we do get hurricanes. We do get some flooding. So you do want to vet your flooding risk, your inclement weather risk, and keep that in mind, right? Especially being on a waterfront, you might get some flooding here and there. You might get some very bad rain. You just got to consider that if that's something you don't want or something you can live with. Secondly, is access to larger metro hospitals. Now, Easton does have its own hospitals that are very local. However, if you're thinking of getting to things like Johns Hopkins and University of Maryland Hospital, you're going to have to travel a lot further to get to those. So you might want to consider that when you're considering Easton as a place to retire. In summary, if you value relaxed coastal living with good amenities, decent affordability, and just a comfortable place to live out the rest of your life, Easton, Maryland needs to be on your short list. Now, here's why. Number 2 on the list is Frederick, Maryland, located in Frederick County. Duh. Frederick is up in the western corner of Maryland, and it gives a bit more of that suburban active feel versus that small town feel like Easton gives. So if you're looking for something a bit more high value, a bit more quicker pace, but still fairly relaxing, Frederick, Maryland is a place for you to consider. Now, why Frederick, Maryland stands out? 14.5% of Frederick's population is actually over the age of 65, and that is up 52% from 2010. Right, that means that the infrastructure in Frederick has actually evolved to support retirees because it's such a large portion of their population. That means that the amenities, the housing, and even the healthcare have evolved to support their growing population of retirees in Frederick, Maryland. I mean, who wouldn't want to live in a place that has literally grown to accept you, that is literally building up around you? Who wouldn't want that? According to the 5-star Senior Living's list of top places to retire, Frederick, Maryland is featured on its list because of its comparatively lower cost of living with its exceptionally high quality of life. Now, a lot of people think there's a high trade off, right? You either get more affordability, but you have a lower quality of life, or you have a great quality of life, but it costs you an arm and a leg. Frederick, Maryland really does do a great job of balancing the two. Also, Frederick, Maryland is in a decent proximity to DC and Baltimore. Now we're looking at hour to hour and a half drive depending on traffic, but you can still have that big city access if you want it. And you can even find plenty of part-time work and jobs in Frederick, Maryland, if you do want to keep yourself busy. Some things you might want to double check and read up on. First off is affordability. While Frederick, Maryland is not the cheapest and still remains higher than the national average, it is not as expensive as some of its adjacent retirement regions, right? It is, again, kind of right in that middle ground. Maryland's cost of living is above the national average, but it's not so high above the national average that it's like, top 5 in the list. It's actually fairly centralized, and Frederick, Maryland is a great reflection of that. Secondly, is your traffic or your commute. Now, if you have family that lives in Baltimore, DC, Virginia, they're going to have quite the drive getting up to Frederick, Maryland. Frederick, Maryland is actually touching West Virginia. So if you want to be closer to family and you don't want to have to commute often, maybe Frederick, Maryland might not be for you. Or if your family does live close to Frederick, then this is a great option. Secondly, Frederick is not your small town. You won't get that rustic, historic downtown feel in Frederick. You're going to get a more suburban, urban type of feel there, which might be a good or bad thing depending on your style. If you want a bit more neighbors and you want a bit more activity, Frederick's great. If you want less neighbors, less population, and you kind of want to just sit back on your land and look at all you've accomplished, Frederick, Maryland might not be at the top of your list. Some key takeaways, first off, is just the growth in senior services. Right? Frederick has grown to love and really take care of its retiring population. Secondly, is good value, plus amenity access. That's why I think Frederick, Maryland needs to be a strong candidate in your list of places to retire. Real quick, if you made it this far in the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Let's make this the #1 Maryland YouTube channel in the world. I need your help to do it. Also, if you're thinking of retiring in Maryland or relocating to Maryland for retirement, you need to reach out to us. My information will be somewhere here on the screen. You can reach out by text, call, email. We get people just like you every single day looking to come to Maryland or buy a new home within Maryland. Don't be afraid. It doesn't matter if you're 5 days out or 5 years out. We want to meet you. We want to talk with you and get planning on your future. Now, #3 on the list, Columbia in Howard County, Maryland. Now, this is centrally located between Baltimore and DC, with not that long of a drive to have that big city life. You can still find some very, more rural suburban pockets with nice peace. And the school systems and the safety rating is through the roof in Howard County. First off, Howard County and Columbia especially scores very well in safety rating. By it being between two large cities, Baltimore and DC, it means you have great access to local amenities like hospitals, great schools, shopping, and even major airports like BWI and Reagan National. Also, the community infrastructure and the location, right? Howard County schools are ranked some of the top schools in the country, which naturally keeps the crime rate very low. It keeps the quality of life very high, and it's a nice, safe place for you to retire at. Also, the infrastructure and the planned nature of the community makes getting around and actually being a part of the community feel a lot easier for retirees. There's plenty of town centers, parks, lakes, hiking trails, places you can fish, you can kayak. There's just a lot of stuff to do. And a lot of retirees have reported that Howard County doesn't feel like a place where they're set aside or set in their own little corner. They can really be a part of the general public and a part of the general community. Also, for those of you retirees that love an active social life, there's still plenty to do for you. There's clubs, there's plenty of volunteering activities, there's plenty of local events and festivities that happen throughout Howard County that always reach out to retirees to be a part of, whether you're volunteering, whether you have a talent you want to showcase, or whatever it is. Howard County and Columbia, Maryland especially, really make the retirees feel right at home there. We want to give you the drawbacks. That's right, people. I give you the good, the bad, the ugly of living in Maryland. I don't sugarcoat anything, okay? So first off is the housing costs. Now, I know we've put housing costs and some of the drawbacks of all of these. Now, Howard County isn't exceptionally high. It's actually pretty standard for the cost of housing in Maryland. However, it is highly sought after. There are a lot of people retiring here. There are a lot of people that come here when they have young kids because they want to take advantage of the school system. And many people just love living in Howard County and Columbia, Maryland. And not a lot of people leave. Once they come here, they stay here for quite a while. So, with that being said, there's a lot of competition for housing and there's a lot of population increase there, right? Now, if that's a drawback to you, then, maybe don't put this at the top of the list. However, if you're okay with a growing community, you're okay with a mixed community of different cultures, different ages, different incomes, then Howard County is the place for you. Secondly, if you're after that minimalist, quiet country retirement feel, this is definitely not a place to consider. Columbia, Maryland, again, is growing exponentially. There's going to be traffic, right? There's going to be people, there's going to be children, there's going to be all types, right? So if you want that quiet feel where your nearest neighbor is 2 miles away, this is not the place for you. You're going to have neighbors, you're going to have an active community, and you're going to have people that really want to get to know you and want you to be a part of what's going on. Thirdly, cost of living. Howard County and Columbia, Maryland is above the state average in terms of cost of living. Again, not so far above that it's unattainable, but that is something that you want to budget, especially when you're retiring. Remember, you're not going to have the income when you're working, or at least most people won't. So you want to budget accordingly. You want to make sure that everything is in line. If you do want to have a conversation with us, if your budget will cover your retirement, wherever you're choosing to do it, reach out to us. Again, text, email, call us. We're happy to set up a 5-year, 10-year plan to make sure you can retire comfortably wherever you choose to do it. The key takeaway for Columbia, Maryland is if you want everything nearby, that includes strong healthcare, culture, convenience, shops, towns, and even neighbors, then you got to be willing to pay for it a little bit. But Columbia, Maryland should be a top tier retirement option, right? As long as you're okay with that suburban city feel and you're okay with a growing population, then Columbia really will be a safe, nice, great place for you to retire comfortably. So ask yourself, do you want water shore life and that slow pace? Do you want that suburban feel with a lot of activity? Do you want somewhere in the middle, right? Do you want to have neighbors and some activity, but also a nice getaway whenever you can take it? Wherever you think you want to go, you need to reach out to us. We can help you narrow it down. We can give you a list of options. Again, we'll give you the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to living here in Maryland. And no matter where you choose to go, we want you to be educated. And most importantly, we want you to be comfortable. Again, my information will be somewhere on the screen. You can text, call, email, do whatever you need to do to reach out to us and let's set up a plan. It doesn't matter how long until retirement you have. We want to talk to you and we want to help you. Thank you so much for staying to this part in the video. Look, if you made it, you might as well subscribe and hit that like button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss a video. New videos come out every single week. I really appreciate the support. And as always, have a fantastic day.